Hi, my name is Terryanne Chebet. I am the CEO and founder of Kayana, a skin and hair care line that focuses heavily on our natural African products. So today I'm very excited to be here because we're talking about a topic that I absolutely love, and that is branding for small business. And the reason I love this absolute important topic is because it is the one thing that will take your brand from zero to hero. So in this class, and I want us to really pay attention to each and everything that we talk about today, because it is what will take your business to the next level. And I will use my personal story. I have also written a book called Be Unforgettable, which is on personal branding. And for you as a small business owner, you will also need to learn how do you elevate your personal brand. And by learning that, and by learning the consistencies and the hard work that it takes to build that, then it will be so much easier to then build the brand of your business. So we'll start off very simply, and I will use some of my examples and how I have managed to grow Kayana from an invisible brand to where it is today. And I know we haven't reached where we want to go, but we have gotten to somewhere. So what is a brand? A brand is your identity. It is what your company is all about. It is what people think your company about. It is the experience people have when they engage with the product and the service that your company, brings on the table. So in many ways, it is a combination of things, both from an internal perspective and from an external perspective. An internal perspective in the sense that what story do you want to tell about your brand? What experience do you want people to have when they engage or interact with your product or your service? And also, how do you put that brand together from the name, from the look and feel, and from a packaging perspective as well? So these are just some of the things that we will talk about today. So I hope you have your pen and your paper so we can start. And I want to start off with the name, what's in a name. And I'll use our example at Kayana. When I started out, of course, I had no name. I did what everybody does, went onto Google and got a name generator and put in, organics, natural, and all these keywords that sort of spoke to what we were doing and what we wanted to do. So I got some names. I think we got up to maybe 15, 20 names. And the one I wanted, and I laugh about it because everybody was like, huh? So the first name I wanted us to have was called Butterfly Kisses. And then I sat down with my friends and they're like, what kind of product is that? And what will people think? And then will a mother buy a product called Butterfly Kisses for her daughter? So there was a lot of conversation that went around that, which is something I hadn't thought about. But because I was advised by people close to me at the time who were, advising me on setting up the business, I said the name is one of the most important things, that you must do. So what I then did was to share the names that I had with a circle of friends who mostly were from the advertising and branding space. So they really knew what a name would do to a brand. I had names including my daughter's name and, a combination of names, which is what we do as Kenyans. Like my name is Terryanne, maybe my boyfriend's name is George. Then we call the business Tego, whatever. So those are some of the things that I really needed to think about when thinking of a name. And eventually, a friend of mine who was in advertising then sent me an email with 3 names. And he knew the name that he wanted, but he didn't tell me. He just said, look at these names. I have found the perfect name. And I looked at it and I saw Kayana. And the meaning of Kayana was from a Gaelic language. Gaelic is a very old Irish language. And in Gaelic, Kayana means beautiful black or ebony. And so it has a sort of dichotomy within it. In Northern Africa, there is a river also called Kayana. So that was absolutely perfect. And for me, it really rang home. I mean, this is a black brand. It's a black African brand. And it just struck home. And immediately I got the name from him and I shared it with the same circle of friends who were like, that's the name. It stands out, it's different, it has an African feel to it. It it has a powerful name in terms of black and ebony really combine into what we're doing, because our brand really believes in our African story in terms of our oils are from Africa. We get our marula oil from East Africa or Southern Africa. We get our argan oil, sourced from Morocco. Our coconut oil from Mombasa. So all these things combined, then really to us meant that our brand had to speak to the African audience and to have a name that we can truly speak for. However, I'm seeing also a new trend of names. I mean, if you look at the international space, some of these global names, let's say Google, who have recently changed to Alphabet, and among other companies as well. Sometimes you just pick a name that you feel that works for you, but remember, once you do that, the amount of work that it will take for you to just elevate what your name is all about. So as you think about your name, especially for those who are starting out in business, think through it, sit down with people, get a circle of friends. And now with the digital platforms, it's a lot easier to also get in touch with people who are in the advertising space, because they'll be really, really helpful when it comes to just getting a name. Because your name doesn't have to come from you. Your name can come from somebody else. It can be inspired by, so many other things. So, put the word out and let people help you get your name together. So once you get your name, of course, the next thing is a logo. And I know we're in a space now where, there's so many free tools online that we can use to build a logo. And it could be anything from Canva, from, all these websites that allow us to build our own logo. And in as much as I think, it's fine because it's cheaper and it's more affordable, I would suggest that you actually sit with somebody who can help you build a logo. This is somebody who is trained in graphic design, and logos honestly can cost you anything from 5,000 shillings to 400K, 500K, depending on what it is you're looking for and who you're talking to and what your budget is. So when you're looking for that logo, maybe when you're starting off and you have, you really don't have a budget, you can develop it by yourself online. However, I would encourage you to get a small budget and speak to somebody who will help you develop a logo that actually speaks to your brand story, so that there's elements of your brand, there's elements of your vision, there's elements of your brand story that fits into the logo. And there's so many people online. It's just doing a little bit of research, speaking to people, and somehow you'll find the right person. So a logo is absolutely important. Remember, it speaks for you when you're not there, and it needs to be visible, it needs to be different, it needs to stand out, and it really needs to tell your story. So after you've done a logo, another thing that you really must think about is your brand story. What is your brand story? And your brand story really reflects on your why. Why am I in this business? Why am I selling this? Why am I, so you need to write down all those whys. And when you do, you can then develop what your brand story is. And depending on the sector that you're in, there's many ways of telling, your brand story. And I strongly believe that a good brand story has an emotional connection. It can really, it can spur the right connections and the right emotions that you want the people engaging with your brand to feel. I'll tell you about my brand story as Kayana. So I started the business because my older daughter has eczema, which is a dry skin condition. And because of that, I, were in and out of hospital, and met a dermatologist who then told me you'll need to manage, because eczema is not treatable. So you just need to manage her in terms of don't expose her to harsh chemicals, don't. But part of managing that is ensuring that you're using a product that's as natural as possible. And then he suggested shea butter. And with time, I realized there were so many other mothers around me who were looking for the same thing. And then I decided I will be the one to plug that gap and make shea butter a lot more available and affordable, either in the shops or online. and we started off on Facebook. So my brand story, and I remember doing an incubator program where we were taught how to build the brand story, and it was now bringing all these elements together of why did I start this business. And I had never really seriously thought about telling that story in terms of that emotional connection, because imagine how many people are facing the same thing, and it is a business built on my personal values as well. I'm a mother. It's part of what I absolutely love. It is the best job in the world, and so for that's very important for me that my business also reflects the similar values in its brand. A brand that cares, a brand that's motherly, a brand that cares about family. So using my brand story, then I'm able to connect easier with mothers who make the most decisions in the home. Whether it is the schools the children go to, whether it is the oil that the house uses, and the house here includes the husband. So I had to really think of using my brand story to connect. So as you think of your brand story, go back to the very first time you thought about setting this business, the very first time you thought about providing the service, the very first time you thought, yes, this is the right thing, and this is the gap I'm trying to plug in the market. And then you can begin to build your brand story. And one of the most important things actually for your brand story is that it will be able to give you a consistent story all through. Remember, when you're building your brand, a lot of exposure and visibility is required. And one of the first things that a journalist or a blogger, if you're doing an interview, will ask you is, why did you start this? And when they ask you why, it is your brand story that that will sell you and will build or elevate your brand. So think through it clearly, and there's also so many resources available online that can guide you on how to create and build your brand story. But just, as a quick wrap, look at why did I start? When did I start? What was happening around me that time? Why did I feel that this is the right business to start? And that way you can begin to build your brand story. So we'll move on to the next one, which is a vision and a mission. I always say, especially for somebody who has worked in the corporate space before, we always have, when you do your orientation, week one, you'll be taught about the values of the company, the mission of the company, the vision of the company. So in the same way, sit down with yourself, sit down with the people you are working with to define what your brand values are. I'll give an example of our values. Authentic is one, because we are in a market that is very easily swayed in terms of, if we say the majority of the products in our end product have to be natural. Let's say for a baby balm, for instance, we say 70% must be natural. Our products must be ethically sourced. We are working in an ethical environment. So for us, it's incredibly important to ensure that within our values, we say, we're ethical. We are a company that has, integrity. We stick to our values. So as you do that, make sure that you have your values in one space. So it could be just 5. You can write as many as you can, but settle on 5. And, there's so many values that you can look at, but make sure the top 5 that must be in your brand are included. So integrity, it could be anything, but look at the values and make sure that you have your values down. A mission statement is also another incredibly important thing that you must have in your sort of brand strategy. So what's your mission? What do you want to achieve? Where do you want the company to go? How will it get there? So you must ask yourself these questions. Sit down and develop your mission statement. If that is a difficult one, just look around and see, what is Google's mission statement? What is Oprah's mission or vision statement? Or the companies that operate within the same space that you are, look at what their vision and their mission statements are. But make sure as you do yours, be as authentic as possible, be as true to yourself as possible, because then your company runs on it. And every time you have a new employee, every time you talk about your business, you must make sure that you're talking about what your mission is. And the vision statement also goes hand in hand, with the mission statement. And I always say, Google is your friend. Look around for inspiration and come up with a vision statement, because a vision statement takes you to where you want your company to go. And that then helps with consistency, because one of the key aspects of building a brand for your company is consistency. Because the story you tell today has to tie in somehow with the story that you'll tell, 10 years, 20 years down the line. So ensure that you are as consistent as possible, and it is a mission statement, a vision statement, and your brand values that will ensure that the brand we know today is the same brand that we will know 10 years down the line. Well, so once you're done with your mission statement, your vision statement, your brand story, you now need to think about your tagline. And a tagline is a combination of all these amazing things about your brand and made into a very short sentence or some words, in between. For instance, our tagline at Kayana is authentically African. And we've seen, so many other taglines by other brands. You can look at what other brands and your competitors are doing and, use that as an inspiration, or also use that to help you identify how different you can be or how you can differentiate your tagline. Kenya Airways, for instance, their tagline is the pride of Africa, and that's where they want to position their brand. So as you think about your tagline, think about the very key things that you have listed down as you came up with your brand story, you came up with your vision, and your mission statement, and write that down. And also, as I keep saying, take it around your circle. Work with your members of staff, work with your directors, work with people who have been in the field for a long time, just for them to advise you and to listen to these taglines that you're putting together. Usually come up with 3 or 4 of them, write them down, share them with a few people, and then, get their feedback. Sometimes you can strengthen it, sometimes you can change it, but these are things that you don't do on your own. Always ask, always look out for help, always reach out for help, talk to a professional and find out, talk to people you respect to find out if this is a tagline that they could go with. Like Kayana, for instance, where I am today, their tagline is dream, work, grow, and it really identifies. So let's talk about another incredibly, maybe this is even the most important thing, which is the target audience. Have you defined your target audience? Who's your user? Who buys your product? Who do you want to buy your product? Is it a man? Is he in his 30s? Does he have a beard? Does he live in, So you need to really zoom in to the specific details of who your target audience is, and write it down and make sure it's clear to everybody who works in the organization, so that they're able to, when you're thinking or innovating around, or even just communicating online or elsewhere, you know who your target market is and you know how to talk to them. But you must first know who they are. So that involves sitting down with your team or your leadership team and just identifying that right from the beginning. And once you do that, it really also helps in communication and building the right products. Why do I talk about building the right products? Because sometimes we create things as entrepreneurs. Sometimes we create things that we love. You see something beautiful somewhere, you're like, that's what I'm going to do. But we must always ensure that we're creating things that our audience is actually looking for. Talking to them constantly. And once you've identified your target market, even when, let's say, you're doing a Facebook boost, or you want to put a post out and it's a targeted post, it's a lot easier for you to go online and then target it directly to your target audience. Do they live in Nairobi? Do they live in Uganda? Do they live in South Sudan? What are their interests? Their interests, food, baby products, so there's so much that you need to put down when you're putting your target audience together. Another important thing is, once you're able to put that together, then you're able to reach out to them to find out what is it that they want. If you're, let's say, buying stuff you've got an online shop, and your specific target audience is buying from you, it's so much easier for you to reach out to them because they've started engaging anyway online. If somebody writes a post on your Facebook page, remember to engage, because that's a client that engages is a dream client to anyone, whether they're complaining, whether they're telling you off, because that's important and very critical feedback. So I'll give a very quick example. So I also am a director in a small agency, and brand is also a big thing that we take care of. And one of our clients once was a bank, and somebody was very upset about a certain service that they did not receive on time, and went onto Twitter and did a whole rant. So we reached out, and then so I reached back to the client and I said, you either have to call or the CEO has to call you. Not a customer care person, it has to be somebody very high up, either the deputy CEO or the CEO himself. So the deputy CEO called this person who was very upset and actually invited him to the bank and sat down and talked about it. And that completely changed, the dynamics of that relationship. So in a similar way, I mean, it doesn't have to involve coffee and tea and visits to the office, but you really must engage. Because imagine the feedback he gave the CEO, the deputy CEO, which is something that he might have never heard anyway from a client, because the engagement level is very different. He would usually probably engage with a customer care service person. So as a small business, we have the advantage of being so closely engaged with our clients that we should not take that for granted. So make sure on a daily basis, see who's writing to us, what are they saying, respond to them. If they leave a number, call them, because that's how you build loyalty with what they're doing. They want you to dream, they want you to work, and they also want you to grow. So this is a space where, you come to dream, you come to work, and you come to grow. Packaging is another incredibly important thing that you must think about. And packaging really applies to both a product and a service. How do you package your product? What is the first thing people see before they touch the product, before they really feel the product? And I will talk about our product packaging journey. And when we started off, I bought some containers from industrial area, and I brought some from China as well, because I was very particular about how I wanted the product to look. And because I'm in the skincare business, and I've learned through the years that in our industry, people buy packaging sometimes even more than they actually buy the product. So you might have the best product ever, but if it's not packaged in an attractive way, especially for skincare and hair care, then even your pricing may not be as good as it should be. Yet there are people who have a product that may be even substandard compared to yours, but they've done their packaging in such a high quality manner that their product automatically stands out. This is what I always say, depending on what sector you're in, be it coffee, be it tea, be it skincare, be it candles, anything, especially, that has such a visual value. If you put it on a shelf, this is what I used to do when I started off care. I used to walk around beauty shops, supermarkets, and I'd look at the shelf and I say, how would my product look against this other product? And sometimes, well, most times, especially those years, there would be products that are multinational products. So imagine the amount of research and development that have gone into creating that product, which means it's of high quality mostly. Their design work has been done so nicely. The packaging has been taken into consideration that when you put your brand next to it, it will say automatically to your audience, whether it is, or the people you want to sell to, whether it is high quality or it's not. So I'll give a few tips about packaging, and I'll focus first on the skincare space and then generalize it, because that's what I know. So first, I would say compare yourself with global brands, mostly because the quality of packaging is a lot higher than it is. The quality of whether you're using a jar, whether you're using a bottle, whether you're using plastic, usually the quality is higher. And unfortunately, our local packaging has not reached a certain level. If I am to compete with, say, a brand from Vaseline or from Nivea or any of the big international ones, which ideally I should, then my product or the packaging needs to be as good as that is. Because we're human beings. At the end of the day, we judge everything by what we look at. So we must absolutely pay attention to the packaging. And it's pretty simple, especially in the product space. Alibaba is a click away. That's what I did. I went on to Alibaba. I reached out to a number of companies in China who were selling containers, did a negotiation, and reached out to many so that you can get the best price. And sometimes I found that, it might cost a little bit more, but at the end of the day, you can then price that into your margins, but you're giving your clients a really high quality packaged product. And it's pretty simple these days with Alibaba, because you pay online, you can get a shipper right on the website as well. And once you pay, then you get your product delivered, in Nairobi, depending on the shipper that you picked. Another important thing on Alibaba, depending on the minimum quantities or the quantities that you're ordering, sometimes you can even get your labels done online. And imagine just from a quality perspective what that means. So your product, your packaging comes ready to go with very high quality branding at a good price, because the competition level is so high on Alibaba that you almost always get a really good price. Yes, it might price you a little bit higher compared to your local peers, but it also gives you quality, and quality offers you the opportunity to fetch a better price and even to fetch better margins. So that's on packaging. If you're in the more maybe coffee, tea, and that space as well. So on packaging, there's great variety, both locally and internationally, on that are available. So if you're looking for smaller quantities and you don't want all the stuff that goes with an international transaction, then you can work with you can go online and find companies that are already doing that locally. There's many companies, and you can find them on Facebook and on Instagram, that are doing glass jars. So depending on what size you want, whether it's 100 grams to 50, 300, and those jars are good for anything, for chia seeds, for skincare, for honey. So there's so much available locally. As Kayana, we work with the cosmetics packaging in Kenya, a lady called Josephine, who is based in the CBD, and she has a website called consumerpackaging.co.ke, and you can order online, and you could order one if you wanted to. You could order 50, you could order 100, and and you get of course a better price the more you order. So if you're in that space, there's also this available suppliers locally. But make sure that one of the things that you take very seriously is the quality of your packaging. So still on the packaging, I've worked with Design Crowd, which is designcrowd.com, to get my labels done. So Design Crowd is basically a space where different designers from across the world come together, and you put in your pitch, and they then say, I can work on this. So depending on your budget, so let's say we put in 20,000 bob to get a label, or to get labels for a range of skincare products. So you'll put in 20K is my budget, and then so different designers will come and start submitting, and then you decide, and you only pay once you have selected the design that you want, and then you can work with that designer to do any changes that you may want. And the important thing, and I recently found out when I was doing some labels recently, there's also Kenyan designers on the platform who are just as amazing. My Kayana logo was done by a lady from, I think, Poland. I've never met her. I only know her from the website. But she did an amazing job. And for me, it was because I was looking for a product that could look like an international product, because I wanted to sell, yes, in Kenya, but there's also opportunities for it to sell, in other countries. So the product had to look in a way that would be attractive to somebody in Nairobi, somebody in Babane, somebody in London, somebody in New York, etc. And we achieved that because then, we worked with a designer who knew how to get us an identity that could run across multinationally. So that's one of the websites that I would recommend that you also look at. However, within your circles, you can also ask around. If you see a logo you like from one of the local brands, you could ask, who did your logo? Can I talk to them? Well, not your competitor, they'll not give you that, but some nice logos that you see, ask around. And the global space has become so flattened with digital media. You can get almost anybody that you want. All right, so when you're done, with that whole packaging side, the next step is now to create visibility for your brand. And as I get into that space, I just want to quickly say there's so many tools available online. Just go to www.visakenya.co.ke and you'll find a small business hub. If you're already in business, you can sign in as a merchant, so you're able to also access so many other possibilities for you, and learn a lot more about how you can grow your business. If you haven't already, remember to go on www.visakenya. There's a small business hub. In there, you'll find so many tools and tips and tricks into how to take your small business to the next level. And also remember that this masterclass will also be available on the Visa website, and we will put the links so you're able to watch that as well. So speaking of digital, what is your digital footprint as a business? And there's so many tools that are available for you to measure the performance of your brand online. But the most important thing is to own the conversation yourself. And owning the conversation gives you a space to create content around your business. So depending on what you're doing about it, it could be a blog, it could be just super consistency on your digital platforms. It could be collaboration with other bloggers or newspaper articles and so much more on the digital footprint. But you must own your story. When somebody Googles your company, what do they see? If somebody Googles your product, what do they see? What page do they fall on the Google search? And those are some of the important things. And your company must be on the first page. So what are some of the tips that you can use to ensure your brand, your product, your company name is at the very top of the searches? One is something called search engine optimization. SEO is and has always been a really, really important thing. And thankfully now there's actually SEO courses that you can do for free online. So just go and find out, what is SEO, how can I learn? And it will basically help you identify keywords that people look for when they're looking for a service or a product that's in your space. And that will mean that you work backwards from there and ensure that these keywords are included in the posts that you make, in the content that you put out. And that way it will begin to bring to bring higher up your company name or your product in towards the top searches. And there's also simple ways of doing it using Google Your Business, which is also a free service. And once you have Google Your Business, which you can get, just from your regular Google account, so you'll put in your location, you'll put in your phone number and contacts, email address, location, etc. And even what's more important about something like Google Your Business, it also gives you a map. So if somebody's looking for you, you have a shop front or you have an office, it's very easy for them to just, then click on the map to come to you. So that's, besides the point, but, Google Your Business can really help you with your SEO, because then you also get analytics that you can find from time to time. How are people looking for you? What are they looking for when they find you? And that would be where the keywords would come through. So make sure that you have listed your business on Google Business to help you also just make sure you know your analytics, you know what people are looking for, and that will help you guide your SEO. Another very simple way of getting your name and your business brand more visible online is to ensure that your name is out more. Find out, are there bloggers, that write about content in your space. Have you set up your own blog? Just content that will always elevate your brand in that space. So make sure you have a lot of content going around, and also make sure you're very consistent on your social media handles. So that's Facebook, and if you're in Kenya, Facebook is incredibly important. Do not ignore it. No matter your age, sometimes we say, I'm on IG, I'm on TikTok, I'm on, Twitter, but so research has shown that the majority of Kenyans are on Facebook. So do not ignore Facebook. Make sure you have a strategy specifically for Facebook for your company. And what I've also found very interesting in recent days, because not many of us are, super savvy when it comes to Facebook, but I've met some people within the space who are training young people on digital marketing, digital strategies. So you can find, so many young people that you can work with. First, they're more versatile. They are so aware of what's happening in the digital spaces. They know how to communicate with their target audience, especially if you're creating products that also focuses on young people. Make sure that you work with somebody who can help you in that space. So digital footprint, consistency as well. Don't start and stop. And then you can find so many tools that you can use to schedule your posts, so that you don't necessarily have to wake up every morning and thinking, I have Instagram, I have Twitter, I have Facebook, I have TikTok, I have, whatever else, LinkedIn that you need to post on. So work ahead. And if you're working with somebody, whether it's an intern or somebody within the organization that has taken on the digital marketing side or social media marketing side, that they have planned in advance, you have approved in advance, and it just makes it so much easier. So you know what's getting posted. You've probably had a discussion on even what the particular posts are. You have approved them, and then you can take that off your mind for even 2 weeks and focus, on other things. So consistency is incredibly important, but also find people that you can work with, interns or otherwise, that can help you with. So, and also within Facebook, take advantage of the Facebook boosting. And sometimes it's not as expensive as it looks. Look at what your business is doing, and from it, create a marketing budget. It can be small. I mean, when we think of marketing budgets, unfortunately, as small businesses, we think, that's so much money. Do we need it? I always say, look at some of the big brands that never stop marketing, never stop branding, no matter how much we see, know, and engage them on an everyday basis. So you need to treat your business in the same way. So create a small marketing budget, if that's what you want. A big one, just put aside a budget, and within that budget, make sure that you take advantage of the opportunities on social media to boost. Whether you're using 500 shillings a day, 1,000 shillings a day, you can say, I'll use 5,000 this week. Make sure Monday to Friday you have done that. And you will see changes in the numbers of people that follow you, the engagement. And of course, if you're creating interactive content, you'll also see that the engagement, which is what we all look for as small business owners, that it will go up. So do not ignore the opportunities available within the social media to boost and to just push your marketing slightly higher up. So let's talk about media and public relations. As a former journalist, I hear and I get people telling me all the time, oh, Terryanne, please connect me here, please connect me here, because visibility is important. And a phrase that I've completely loved over the years and I talk about from time to time is visibility has become almost more important than ability. It's not an original phrase of mine, but I picked it up in a book somewhere. And no matter how good you are, how great your product is, if it is not visible, then it is invisible, and nobody cares. If you're the best at what you do and nobody knows you, it's like that story of, this little candle is, under the light. Covered, and nobody can see the candle after all. So make sure your product is visible. And that's where media and PR also come in. Thankfully, though, in the age we live in today, the media has changed a lot. Of course, the impact of digital has made it in such a way that media is anyone, media is anywhere, and does not necessarily mean that you have to be on a TV station to get visibility. And so, which are some of the tips and tricks you can use? So I'll talk about one or two that are critical, apart from the ones that we know generally, which means putting your brand in a place where journalists, bloggers, etc. can see them, but also just being clever about it. One of the tips I like, and I've seen some companies use, is looking for societal challenges and building collaborations with like minds. It could be even a bigger company, and then you can take advantage of the sort of media pool that they'll get to make sure that your brand also gets elevated. So you will have to be also clever about how you can build some of these partnerships, and they have to be authentic also, and they have to be true, and they have to be things that you're passionate about. One of the things I have done as Kayana is to work with homes that take in teenage moms, around that space, and they sometimes need a body oil, soaps, etc. And we work with them to provide that. So for us, it's not. Sometimes we talk about it as but sometimes we don't. And in a way that can also help us just elevate our brand in those spaces, not necessarily straight up in the media, but within that target audience. If they like our products, they'll talk about it. So we don't always have to look at media and PR from such a grand perspective, but from just ensuring you have more eyeballs engaging with your brand, you have more people who see and understand what your brand is all about. Another one is just reaching out directly. If you want to talk to Terryanne Chebet on Instagram, or any other person who may help you connect, who may help connect you to somebody who you'd like to feature your brand, DM them. And I always say, just DM. One day they'll see it. And if you're consistent with your posts, if you're consistent with your story, if you're building the right collaborations, then you'll be able to get visible. So before you get on to CNN or BBC, just make sure that you're building your platform slowly, and you're building your visibility, so that it'll be an easier break when you get there. So let's talk about PR very quickly. Public relations basically helps you create the perception that you want for your audiences and the audiences generally to see. One of the things I usually say is just put out a brand, a PR statement every so often. If you have a new product coming up, write your own press release and share it. Find some contacts you can share it with, and also put out the press release on your platform. You never know, somebody might pick it and share it with other people. So have your own strategy and use your communications team to say, we will put out at least one press release a month. And that press release can be small. It can be a tweet, it can be a live, it can be a short blog on Instagram. And it's just announcing maybe something that you're doing, a collaboration that you're getting into. It could be a new product or a new service that you're releasing, but make sure you talk about it. And that's how you build your own PR. And eventually, as a small business, then you can be able to grow and learn how PR can actually help you grow your business. And with time, it will be so much easier to pitch to the bigger media houses, because you've learned to do it on your own anyway. So make sure you take that tip very, very seriously. Well, so as we come to the end of this masterclass on branding for small business, I just want to take us through very quickly what we have looked at today. So we've looked at what is a brand and defining what a brand is and why it is important for you to look at your company as a brand. 2, we've also looked at what's in a name. How do you find a name for those of you who haven't already started? Or, what are some of the things that you need to think about when you are creating a name for your brand? Another thing that you must also think about and look at is your target audience. Who's your target audience? And then what does your target audience really want to do or want to have? And just finding a way of listening to your target audience, and then being as flexible as you can to ensure that you're meeting their needs. Because at the end of the day, you started your business because you wanted to plug a certain gap. So it's not about you and what you want, it's about what your target market really wants. So we also looked at how to create your vision statement, your mission statement, and your brand story. And we talked about how important it is to ensure that your business or service, your product or service, is very clear on that, because these three combined will really give you foresight and vision into where your company to go. They'll make you stay on a consistent path over a number of years. And one of the things that I didn't say at that point is sometimes you might want to change. You know, you look at the market conditions, you look at what your target audience, you look at what's happening globally, and do not be afraid to change your mission, your vision statement, as you go along, because you have to be responsive and as flexible as you can as a small business. So we also looked at a tagline and why it's important for you to have a tagline, because it says in a wrap or in a short sentence or in a few words what your company is all about. So make sure that after this you begin to think about your tagline. We talked about packaging. And for those in skincare, I talked about my story with Kayana and how we sourced our packaging, or how we source our packaging both locally and internationally, and how we do our labels as well, and where we get that from, and the options that are available both locally and internationally. We also talked about the digital footprints, how to be consistent online, how to, I mentioned about search engine optimization, and basically how to make sure that your brand is on the first page of these such platforms. We also talked about media relations and PR, and how to make sure that your brand becomes more visible to the important eyes, so to speak, in terms of the people that can help talk about your brand more, can help put some articles about your brand, as well as what you can do as a company to ensure that there's a lot more content around you. That's on the press releases that you must do internally before, of course, you may be able to hire a consultant to also work with you on that. We've also talked about, some brand collaborations, and how you can work with other like minds and like companies to ensure that your brand stays visible, and basically tapping into the opportunities that these partners can help you with in terms of building and taking your brand to the next level. Well, this has been the Branding Masterclass for Small Business with me, Terryanne Chebet. And of course, in collaboration with Kayana, this beautiful space I'm in. Kayana is a space that proudly supports Kenyan businesswomen. So if you are a woman in business, make sure you visit kayana.org and find out how you can also benefit from the opportunities in this place. This has also been made possible by Visa Kenya. Make sure, if you're in the small business space, go on www.visakenya.co.ke, go to the Small Business Hub, register your company to be a merchant, and also get to learn so much, the tools, the tips, the tricks on how to run your small business.